Aloha!
Aloha. I don't know if we're going yet because the little wheel's spinning.
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we learned that from last time.
Yes.
Okay.
So my
Aloha.
name is Kristara Laxmidetten,
And I'm Michael Ditton.
and we are Infinite,
Activation.
coming to you from.
Southern California.
And we are so sorry we are a little late and kind of like on Hawaiian time today. What was happening?
Well, every third Saturday I have a group gathering with a real estate investment group that's hosted by one of my good friends and mentors, Mike Wolf. And we just get going and have so much fun in that group. A couple hours turns into 3 or 4. But the knowledge is very valuable. We talk a lot about abundance, which is a conversation we have today. So this is another form of abundance. The teachings that he shares, the information that people share, the coaches that he brings into this, and each little tidbit of information it's a whole nother level of abundance because we can take each thing and go from there. So
Yeah, and Michael is so fired up after that. So you all get now more fired up, Michael.
man, I tell you,
So he's like, if you would be like a matchbox, I would just like get fire off you.
well, you wouldn't even have to touch me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's so this is also connected to abundance, and we'll come to it, like your passions, how they can actually increase your abundance. But before we dive in, we have been talking about abundance for quite a while. I came to this topic as I worked as a coach and spiritual coach and energy coach for many people for many years. And I started to see some different patterns. We'll come back to what came out of that. But in general, for us, abundance is not only money. It's also, what else is it?
Today the sun is out and we get blue skies, and there's an abundance of blue skies. The ocean is so vast you can't see from one to the other side. Our friends, our family, love. It's
Christmas
just
tree.
Christmas tree. Yeah, there's
Presents.
abundance. Yeah, abundance of that. There's abundance of abundance.
Yeah. So we also talk about holistic abundance and conscious abundance. And what we mean by those two concepts is that when you talked about conscious abundance, it's like that you are aware of all of these different elements, that it's not only the money. And you also, when you have those things in your life, you're also grateful and you're more present when those things are present. And you have more focus on abundance and everything what's there already or what's already well. And then you are really conscious that you don't put too much of your focus on what's not there. You know it, but you focus on more what you already have and how to increase or multiply of that what you have.
And gratitude can be another form of abundance. It's funny that we're talking about it right now because the blog that we're actually about ready to release next week, because it is the holiday season, which is a great time for giving and receiving. I also talk about, I changed it yesterday, you haven't even seen it yet, but gratitude. Gratitude plays a huge form of abundance, because if a person is giving, that is a form of abundance, and you can feel gratitude for giving. But you also, if you're receiving, you should feel gratitude for receiving as well, because somebody else is giving and that makes them feel good, and that's also abundance. So by allowing this to happen, this abundance to happen, both parties that are giving and receiving are abundant with joy and happiness and that. So it plays into the levels of abundance and holistic abundance. It's kind of that full circle thing.
Yeah, and we can approach to abundance from so different perspectives. Like abundance is used as a term also in economics or ecology, programming language, and also in mathematics, actually, also in chemistry. And as you said, real estate is also kind of an abundance. And elements of Earth's crust are also abundant. And there are so many ways to look at that. And
the list goes on.
Yeah. And as I have a background in social anthropology and visual anthropology, I'm very into all kinds of cultural stuff, and I'm really taken by the Polynesian culture and worldview. And one thing they figured out very many years ago, when everything was going the Polynesian way, they have their islands, and they actually divided the islands into sectors from the top of the island
To
down.
the ocean.
Yeah. And then you had these different communities which had actually resources for different areas and different types of things, or abundance. So you had communities who were close to the ocean, so there were fishermen and people who were doing nets and all of that kind of abundance. And then you had people who were maybe on a higher grounds who were growing coffee or some other plants and things. And then higher up you had the wood, and people were also doing the clothing stuff from the kappa stuff and so on. So they had those big feasts where people came together and everyone took along everything what they had in their community. So there was a plenty of abundance of food and different things and crafts and so on. So I think that was such a smart way of doing it and living.
And they do it on all the Polynesian islands, but we'll give you just a little mindset here. On Big Island, where we live, there's 11 different climate zones. So if you go from the top to the bottom, if you think you have 11 different climate zones, think of the different terrains and different things that are going to happen within that zone. Obviously, one zone is going to be more conducive for growing one type of thing or producing one type of thing, and another is going to be another. So you literally have like a different store at every level. And within that store, they use within their own community or colony, they have these feasts and everything else, but they can also go to other ones and use these as bartering. So basically, they have one thing that they're going to share with somebody else and get something else in return, which they both need. So that's also abundance.
Yeah, so the old way of functioning between societies and cultures and groups and tribes was basically you were abundant if you had lots of like resources or herd or shells or plants or veggies or whatever, and then you went to other people and you exchanged or partnered them with them.
Yeah, and all the things that we're talking about right now, we've got blogs, emails, we've got Facebook posts. We're cutting all this up and we're sharing it in bite-sized pieces. So keep an eye on our Infinite Activation, because you're going to see that. And if you're not within our mailing system yet and want to be, so you can stay in tune with it, let us know as well. But the abundance is being shared, and we're going to be talking about abundance this week. Last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week?
Giving and receiving.
No, that's next week.
We did it already.
Oh, well, we did talk about it, but we're actually releasing all this stuff next week. Okay, so we got abundance this week, giving, receiving next week. Then we're going to do self-confidence, which talks a little bit about how that plays in your life purposes and life mission, and vice versa. The life purposes, life mission also play into your self-confidence. And then we're going to have a whole series on relationships with yourself and with others. So lots, an abundant amount of material coming out over the next 4 weeks, which...
And we also have what we just described. You can see actually there is a picture which has a little graphic overview of that Hawaiian way of how it was set up, and it's really cool to see it also, like how it was so rooted to, like, you were really in balance if you took care of yourself, if you took care of the land, and if you took care of the people of your land. And then there was harmony, there was abundance at all times. And this is something I think we all, some way or the other, maybe have forgotten or have been like detached or, are not in connection with. And this is something we could all maybe change for the better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's more difficult to do. We look back on 2020, and a lot of challenges have been presented. And those challenges, as real as they are, they can either be, something manageable or something worse. And a lot of it has to do with mindset. So if you allow something to bother you, we talk a lot about fear. Fear can either paralyze you or it can motivate you. So if you take these challenges and you allow them to be learning experiences and you can grow through these challenges, they're just going to make you stronger. And that's kind of the message here. 2020 was a challenging year. A lot of people did okay because they adapted to the challenges. Some are still adapting to them. Some of them are paralyzed in fear. And our hope, our goal is that this message will get out there and they'll realize that there's an abundance of other opportunities. They just have to allow themselves to see that. And we're sharing these tools for it. And we call a lot of this reinventing yourself. A lot of people are coming up on January 1 where they're going to make New Year's resolutions or set goals. And we talk about New Year's resolutions we have for years. It's not something that we're going to do on that day for that day. We actually make resolutions throughout the year, or we make a goal or game plan to be part of our life. Our whole life experience is not just for that particular time. And the reinvent yourself is something that we've been talking about since COVID hit, even more in depth, because a lot of people this year have had to reinvent themselves because of the situation they're in. Some it was easier for others. For example, if you were in a workplace that could be done at home versus at the office, you see a lot of people working from their home now. In fact, there's a lot of companies that said, oh, that's never going to happen, it's not possible, but yet they had to adapt to it because they were forced to. And this last year, a lot of us are being forced to do things that might take us out of our comfort zone. So this is all part of learning how to adapt and take that abundance that's around us and move forward.
Yeah, so in order to increase the abundance, adopting to things very quickly is one of the parts, I think, which will continue next year. So that is why we also come with those ideas about reinventing yourself and so on. So very many years ago, when I started to work as a coach with people and consulting people, the number one problem people came to me was, Crystal, I need more money or I need more resources. And it was never about the money. When we worked with them over a period of time, I understood like, okay, here, something is stuck here, something is stuck there. And I started to map it out. And what came of it was abundance wheel. Mm-hmm. And so the point there is that we have to be connected to our own sexuality, which doesn't mean that you have to like have even a partner to have sex with. It's just that you are aware of your own sexual energy and how to use it in various forms, and that you are connected to it and you are using it and channeling it into different outlets and possibilities. Then the relationship with yourself and others, very important, because if that's not in order, you can't do anything and you can't also have happy relationships or work or whatever. Then also health, body, mind, spirit. If that's like out of whack, you in total are out of whack and balance, And then comes the life mission, which is consisting of various life purposes. And it's really important to figure out what those are. And if this year you didn't do it yet, then the next year is absolutely the time for that. And then that's where the Reinvent program comes also in very handy. And then the total of all of these things working in a flow is basically resulting in holistic abundance. So if someone came to me and they were in a relationship which was, not going very well, then of course that relationship corner was stuck, and then their health started to suffer, and then they didn't want to do any work, and then if they needed to miss work, most probably they also didn't get money. So the whole circle was off, and then of course sexuality was off if they didn't have a good relationship. So all of these things, they are influencing each other.
And when you take action to repair one of these sectors or whatever it is that is not functioning in the way that it should be, once you start to repair that, identify it and repair that, and things start flowing again, that becomes that holistic abundance. And it's kind of like a snowball. Once you do that, that snowball starts rolling and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this holistic abundance that we appreciate starts to be everything around us.
And it starts to come like almost automatic.
Yeah, easier. It's like it's rolling downhill.
Yeah, like
instead of pushing. Instead of pushing the snowball, it's rolling downhill.
Yeah. So in our blog today, you will see there are 5 different questions, how you can use the abundance wheel. You can also see the graphic of that, like how it looks. And we hope that you take the time to answer these questions, because it helps you to map like how your situation with the abundance wheel is. And if you look at your life in general right now, and there are areas or things you're not happy with, you have to remember that everything in your outside reality is actually being born from the inside of you. So whether it's thoughts or the way you talk, going back to that creation formula, thoughts, words, actions. So you have to start to consciously change that. And once you consciously change that, then of course you start to create conscious abundance. And in order to do that, we also have 2 more questions in the blog. So the first one is, what is it you're tired of in your life and are ready to let go and do not want into your life anymore? So this helps to map, what you don't want anymore, what's not functioning, and so on. And it's so crucial you know that and have overview of that, because that gives you a point of reflection and also a direction where to go and how.
Yeah, and when you get to that, what you figure out that is, then put into motion what it is you're going to do to make it, change it.
Yeah.
That's the positive twist on it.
Yeah. And the second one, what or who is you desire to have in your life? What or who is stopping you? So we sometimes have all those desires and so on, and then very most cases we ourselves stop ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have also people in our lives who they probably have good intentions. They try to protect us or whatever the reason is. But you have to really look deeply into you and see, where would you like, what would you desire more of, and how can you get there?
Yeah, you have the ability to change yourself. You can't change somebody else. So if it's yourself holding yourself back, start to work on that and put into the positive twist what it is you're going to do to make that better. If somebody is not supporting you, then you basically want to distance yourself from that somebody, because they can actually be the ones holding you back. And that positive mindset is what's going to allow you to expand your abundance.
Yeah. So here were quite many tips for you to increase your abundance. Now it's all up to you. Put it all to work. Take the time to answer the questions, and we wish you lots of aloha and lots of abundance.
Absolutely.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.